Mr. Marabella, before we go on the record, we got a situation here I don't think I've ever had before, but Bobby Woodard has indicated he doesn't want to participate in the hearing. So I don't know how that's to be handled. I've never had that before. I don't know if we need to address that or.
Mr. Woodard.
I don't want to talk on that. I don't want this bold thing. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Woodard, I appreciate your position. Let me just explain to you, this is your parole hearing.
Look, I don't want that.
Quit.
Okay.
I
I don't want it. I don't want it.
Okay.
But
All right.
go through the information in the record and go ahead and
All right. This is the matter of Mr. Robert Woodard. Mr.
Bobby Woodard.
Bobby Woodard, I'm sorry. It's the matter of Bobby R. Woodard, DOC number 113329. Mr. Woodard's date of birth is January the 12th of 1959. He's classified as a third felony offender. He is not eligible for good time. He has a full term date of October the 5th of 2037. He is currently serving a 35-year sentence on the charge of manslaughter, having been sentenced on May 13th of 2003. Mr. Woodard, your case was assigned to me, so I'm going to enter a few other things into the record. Mr. Woodard.
Bobby, let him complete the record. Then
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Mr. Woodard is 63 years old. He's serving 35 years for manslaughter. He's been in approximately 20 years. In October the 5th of 2002, he got in an argument with the victim, went inside, got a gun, and shot him 3 times. The defendant says the victim hit him and had a gun earlier, so he went inside, returned, and shot him. His cousin, who was a witness, said she was inside and saw the two of them arguing.
Let him finish.
Came inside, got a gun, went outside, and shot the victim once while he was leaving. Again, shot him when he fell to the ground, and then said, "The MF is dead now. Go call the police." His history of violence: in 1979, he had a misdemeanor for resisting. In 1984, he had an aggravated battery with a dangerous weapon. In 1985, he was arrested for first-degree murder and convicted of manslaughter. 2002, he was arrested for second-degree murder, and in 2002, he was convicted of manslaughter. The victim's family is opposed if he's released. They want mental health counseling and no contact whatsoever with the family. He does not appear to have done any programs while he's been in prison. His institutional report reflects that. He did get his GED. He's had 64 write-ups in the last one was in 2020 for contraband, and in the last few years, he has had several write-ups for fighting. Law enforcement opposes, as do the victims. His risk assessment, surprisingly, is low. Having put all of that in the record, Mr. Woodard, you had raised your hand. Is there something you wish to say?
Yeah, you had checked my clean bill of health out and my full pardon.
You received a pardon for your first offense?
Hold it. Let me talk now. I didn't want to go up for parole or anything like that. And I don't need to talk to you like that. Okay? Now, I'll see you.
Wait. Sit down.
All right.
Bobby, sit down until they dismiss it. Sit down.
I don't want to fool with him.
Thank you, man, with great vote.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Woodard, you give us little choice because your record isn't the greatest in the world. You have law enforcement opposition. Your criminal record is very violent.
I'm
My vote today is going to be to deny your parole. Wise?
Yes, sir. My vote is denied because of victim opposition and your participation at the hearing.
Ms. Jackson?
My vote, well, this is denied.
All right. Your vote has been denied. Warden Goodwin, thank you so much for your help.
Yes, sir. I believe that's our last case too, Mr. Marabella.
Well, this is something that we have never seen
Happened.
before, and something that we may never see again. But I am glad that we've seen it, because we have been raging for the close to 1,000 hearings that we have seen. There is something that comes up consistently for the worst offenders, for the offenders that harm children. Offenders that harm children, they get this risk assessment score that if you were watching this and you saw Mr. Marabella said, you have a low risk assessment score. And if there's, wake up, Louisiana. Maybe you could look at this. The man has killed 2 people in his life. At his own parole hearing, he says, I am a violent man. And your risk assessment scores put him as low. The same way they put serial child offenders as low. And we don't get it. We say, how is it possible? How is it possible? I don't care how many PhDs you have and how fancy your resume looks. Why are these risk assessment scores coming up as low? At what point are you going to rip it up, fire everyone involved in this dumb assessment process, and get something that works? But they won't. This has been going on for years, and it's not only Louisiana. We see it in other states. We see it over and over again. Someone can derail the life of their own biological child and have a low risk assessment score, meaning that the state believes that they are at a low risk to reoffend, even though the data that doesn't lie says that they are at the highest chance of reoffending. I'm harping on this because it's something that we point out over and over and over again in the over 1,000 hearings that we have done. Then you might want to bring up in this case, how is it that in 1985 you can be convicted of taking someone's life, taking another human being's life, get released only so that you can be convicted again of taking someone else's life in the year 2000? That means that in 1985 he was convicted but served at least less than 15 years, because in 2000 he did it again. And the prosecutor, because he didn't go to court, he took a plea deal, and a judge said, yeah, 30 years. What's the big deal? He's having a parole hearing at 20 years. He only has 10 more years left. He's going to be forced to go home in 10 years unless he commits a crime in prison to extend his sentence. But as you can see, he's not ready to go out. He doesn't want to go out, but he's forced to. Thank you, Richard. First, thank you, Claire, for bringing this to my attention, this hearing. And thank you, Richard, for pointing out the rules around this is that offenders shall be automatically scheduled for parole hearing within 6 months of the offender's parole eligibility date. So it's in their laws. It's in that he's forced to go to parole hearing. And I never realized that. And I guess I never realized that because we've never had someone say they don't want their parole hearing. The scary thing to me again is that when he gets released in 10 years, because he's still a young man, whose life is he going to take to get locked back up again? we live in a broken system, and this is why we do this, so that we can bring to light the insanity of the system that we are in, with the emperor that wears no clothes, but everyone pretends that the emperor is dressed in the finest gown. Low risk assessment score. It's nuts. But with that, I'll let you go.